Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stepping into the fascinating and honestly often heartbreaking world of European football. We're going to be exploring the romantic highs of the sport's absolute greatest underdog stories, and then comparing them directly against the crushing structural realities of modern financial power. So we'll trace a line from the ultimate local heroes of the 1960s, all the way to the rapid rise and sudden collapse of one of the continent's most beloved footballing dynasties. Okay, let's just dive right into it. Listen to this for a second. We did it by playing football. Pure, beautiful, inventive football. That's the legendary Jock Stein speaking in the euphoric aftermath of Celtic's miraculous 1967 European Cup triumph. Now, they had just defeated Inter Milan, a team totally renowned for its incredibly cynical, highly effective 11-man defensive system known as catenaccio. But here's the thing. Celtic didn't beat them by playing their game. No way. They beat them with relentless, breathtaking attack. So really, this entire journey boils down to one classic battle: money versus muscle. On one side, we've got the raw, community-driven underdog spirit of historic clubs like Celtic, and as you'll see in a bit, the initial foundations of Ajax. These were teams built on a true amateur ethos and local pride. But on the other side, well, we have the modern landscape of football, which is almost entirely dictated by colossal financial power. It's a dynamic that forces us to ask a tough question: can a club built on community and tactical innovation actually still survive today? To really wrap your head around that historic underdog spirit, look at this number: 30. When Celtic achieved the impossible back in 1967, becoming the very first British club to win the European Cup, an astonishing 14 of the 15 players in that squad were born within a 10 to 30-mile radius of Celtic Park in Glasgow. I mean, think about that for a second. In today's era of massive global scouting networks and multi-million-dollar transfers, the idea of conquering all of Europe with a team of local lads literally from your own backyard, it's completely unthinkable. And it's not like they just scraped by either. Their path to the Lisbon final was a total masterclass in dominance. They absolutely dispatched FC Zurich 5-0, crushed Nantes 6-2, and just kept marching right to the final. When they finally met Inter Milan, Celtic's attacking philosophy was on full display. Get this, they generated an incredible 39 attempts on goal against a team famous for retreating into an impenetrable defensive shell. Celtic's goalkeeper, Ronnie Simpson, only had to make 2 saves the entire match. It was a victory of pure, relentless intent. Now, you might be wondering, where does that kind of relentless intent come from? Well, it wasn't born in some tactical boardroom, it was forged in the Scottish coal mines. Jock Stein, alongside other legendary managers like Bill Shankly and Matt Busby, was born into the grueling hardship of those mining communities. Remarkably, all 3 of these absolute titans of British football were born within 30 miles of each other. Stein actually worked in the Burnbank pit himself. The brutal physical labor, the absolute reliance on the guy next to you just to survive, they brought that intense communal togetherness directly from the mine pit to the football pitch. It forged a tactical and cultural DNA that totally defined their teams. Okay, so Scottish grit proved exactly what a unified team could achieve. But then a Dutch club named Ajax took that whole concept of unity and basically turned it into high art. They called it total voetbal, total football. It was this brilliant tactical system where literally any outfield player could seamlessly take over the role of any other player in the team. It was an attacking system built entirely on intelligence, freedom, and this almost telepathic unity among the guys on the pitch. But here's a totally surprising twist for you. If we trace the roots of this uniquely Dutch style back in time, total football actually begins with a lineage of British coaches who were treated as outcasts back home. In the 1910s, an Englishman named Jimmy Hogan brought the short-passing Scottish school style over to the continent. He was followed by Jack Reynolds, who laid the early foundations at Ajax in the 1940s, and then Jesse Carver in the 50s, who prioritized ball skills over brute fitness. All of this paved the exact runway for Rinus Michels to spark the total football revolution in the 1970s. And man, when Rinus Michels and the absolute on-pitch genius that was Johan Cruyff took over, Ajax achieved complete continental hegemony. Between 1971 and 1973, they won 3 consecutive European Cups, defeating Panathinaikos, Inter Milan, and Juventus. They essentially tore up the old footballing hierarchy and established an entirely new paradigm for how the beautiful game should actually be played. So how did this actually work on the grass? Well, it's kind of like a giant puzzle where players acted as a single seamless organism. First, you had flexible pitch dimensions. They expanded the pitch as much as possible when they had the ball and violently compressed it when they lost it. Second, the 6-second rule. This was the strict imperative to press immediately and win the ball back within 6 seconds before the opponent could even organize. And third, the carousel, fluid, spontaneous positioning where if a defender moved up, a midfielder instantly dropped back to cover. It required incredible footballing intelligence from all 11 players. All right, let's fast forward a few decades. By the 2000s, Europe's financial elite had unfortunately turned Ajax into a bit of a stepping stone club, but crucially, their philosophy remained completely intact. And in the 2018-2019 season, under manager Erik ten Hag, they suddenly revived their giant slayer identity. This was the Champions League fairy tale that captured the whole world's imagination. The Godemzonen, the sons of the gods, combined youth, experience, and this brave attacking football that just shocked the entire continent. What made this run so spectacular was the pure David and Goliath contrast of it all. It was Ajax's brave, fearless youth core going toe-to-toe with the immense, bottomless wealth of clubs like Real Madrid and Juventus. They finished the group stage undefeated. Then, in what has to be one of the greatest performances in the club's entire history, they went to the Santiago Bernabeu and demolished the reigning champions, Real Madrid, 4-1. And if that wasn't enough, they followed it up by knocking out Cristiano Ronaldo's Juventus. They proved that for a fleeting moment anyway, tactics and structure could still absolutely outperform sheer financial might. But yeah, that fleeting moment ended in a pretty tragic diaspora. After a heartbreaking semifinal exit to Tottenham, the European elite just swooped in, forcing Ajax to sell off their brightest stars. Matthijs de Ligt went to Juventus, Frankie de Jong went to Barcelona, Hakim Ziyech to Chelsea, and Donny van de Beek to Manchester United. But if you look at the end result for these players today, almost all of them have really struggled to replicate their Ajax dominance. It kind of proves that the free-flowing, intelligent system of total football was the true star all along. Away from that specific structure of freedom and unity, the individuals faltered. Which brings us to a really vital, almost existential question for the modern sport. Can legacy alone sustain a club? Look, Ajax has arguably the best youth academy in the entire world. They have a clearly defined philosophy and super deep historical roots. But legacy does not win football matches on its own. The modern game is ruthless, and relying entirely on past glories and institutional memory is incredibly dangerous when the rest of the world just has so much money. Well, for Ajax, that danger became a reality through a severe, behind-the-scenes administrative collapse. The structural decay was just catastrophic. Manager Erik ten Hag departed for Manchester United. Longtime director Mark Overmars quit amid inappropriate scandals. CEO Edwin van der Sar resigned after being completely overburdened, especially since the club operated without a director of football for nearly a year. Then, technical director Sven Mislintat was brought in. He bought 12 players in one single summer, only for 4 to be loaned out, 5 to be sold at a loss, and Mislintat himself fired in less than 5 months. It was a mess.
And on the pitch, the fallout was immediate and honestly shocking. Look at this number, 32. That is where this historic, giant-slaying club plummeted to in the recent Champions League table. 32nd. Their reputation faded fast as they suffered catastrophic defeats, including really tough 5-1 and 4-0 losses to clubs like Chelsea and Marseille. The days of deep, magical European runs just vanished, cutting off crucial transfer revenue and plunging the club into a deeply difficult rebuilding cycle.
And the turmoil wasn't just in Europe either. Domestically, they suffered their worst start to a season since 1964. At one point, after 24 games, they were sitting a massive 19 points behind their rivals PSV Eindhoven. The entire Eredivisie landscape had been reshaped, with Ajax no longer the automatic title favorites they had been for so long. So, where does that leave us? The 1967 Lisbon Lions and the 2019 Ajax squad showed us that tactics, community, and a unified structure absolutely can overcome financial power. But the rapid decline of Ajax shows us exactly how fragile that balance really is. So we have to ask, in an era totally dominated by financial giants, is there still room for the underdog's beautiful game? Or is the pure, inventive football of the local heroes gone forever? It's definitely something every fan of the sport has to consider. Thanks so much for exploring this explainer with us today.